Welcome to Intuitive Human. Our mission is to normalize intuitive experiences for humanity. We're connecting with people just like you, excavating their highly impactful, view-shifting, intuitive experiences, diving deeply into what it actually feels like when you go beyond the veil. In this interview, Vanessa Kristina shares an unforgettable road trip where she discovers a map that matches and reflects her internal experiences of psychic and intuitive phenomena in her life. We hope you see your own reflection in these stories, empirically proving intuition really does exist, and in such a way so that you may discover your own intuitive human.
I'm Vanessa Kristina, and I am an entertainment lawyer, an astrologer, and a spiritual counselor for creatives and performing artists. So I am currently 30 years old, and these intuitive events happened right after I had just turned 27. I was on a road trip. I was in a self-discovery, soul-searching journey to figure out how to activate my purpose. I was on a spiritual path for quite some time.
Okay.
Ever since college, when I was, let's say, like around 19, 20, I began to realize that there's more to the human existence than what's in the mind. That there's a different level, there's a different layer. So I was on this road trip, and I think at this time I had been back in LA, and I was driving up to San Francisco. Along this point in time in my journey, I needed to re-up on some money, so I decided to take a lawyer project in San Francisco for a couple of weeks, make some money to continue traveling. And on my road trips, I always say that I reach a new level of awareness and spirituality because I love delving deep into podcasts and books and audiobooks and YouTube videos on the subject matter. So I was doing a lot of YouTube video watching. And it was late at night, maybe around 11, 12 in the morning. I was on the road. And I decided to start watching astrology videos, like videos on understanding astrology rather than like, oh, Jupiter's in Scorpio, like what does that mean for the collective, right? Because I was watching a lot of those like horoscope type videos.
Okay.
But I wanted to like understand what is astrology and how do I learn it. Through that, I learned about the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising or ascendant sign. And I decided to watch videos on my ascendant sign, which is Scorpio. And I had known my sun, moon, rising for a while. You know, being in the spiritual community is kind of like common knowledge, like, oh yeah, I'm a this and that, but I don't know what it means, you know?
And that's the sign that everybody knows. Like if you're born in whatever the month is.
Right, that's your sun sign. So the
sign.
sun sign is where the sun was at, you know, your exact moment of birth. Your moon sign is where the moon was. And your rising or ascendant sign is the sign that was at the horizon at your exact moment of birth.
Okay.
So that led me to understand, like dive into this, like, okay, what does being a Scorpio rising mean? Because I had zero connection to the energy of Scorpio. I'm like, I am not manipulative. I am not like intense. It's just totally
don't talk
true.
About us like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I have permission to because I'm one of you guys too.
Yeah. Right
on. You know, like I don't associate with the Scorpio traits, so I had this resistance to it.
Okay.
And then of course, like the stereotypes of like, well, I know that Scorpio and I don't like that person, so like all Scorpios are this person, which is not true, right? So in investigating, which is a very Scorpio thing to do, by the way, in investigating this placement, I began to realize that I had it all wrong.
Okay.
To begin with.
Okay.
And that was the moment that I realized that everything that I had ever been told about myself in my life that I knew wasn't true actually wasn't true. Like that's when the downloads started coming, you know, like you're powerful, you're intuitive, you're psychic, you know, you have a capacity to feel other people and other surroundings in a way that most others don't. Your emotions are your power. You are in constant states of transformation only all the time. And I remember like pausing that video and like having this like, oh my God, aha moment. And I remember like voice noting my friend on WhatsApp, like sharing the information that I had been receiving. It was that moment that I realized that I finally had this objective perspective on myself, right? Because this ability to know things, assess my environments, and just know what's up. Like I had that all my life.
Right.
But when I would voice it,
right,
I would be met with doubt and with resistance.
From other people.
And myself too. Having this confirmation allowed me to realize that, oh, it's true.
Right. It served as a validation for what you already knew. I think it's really important to note the maps that are available to us to validate our experiences, and that there really are, I would even say that for as many people out there as there are on the planet, that we each have our own individual map about who we are in this space as an intuitive person, how this stuff works for us, and it's really like kind of just pointing to which ones are the resonant maps that speak back to you. Self-discovery is an amazingly powerful tool, especially when we're getting into these spaces of learning who we are as we are and not as others expect us to be. So I think that's such a beautiful moment of experience. And so tell us more. So you're in the car, you're downloading these videos like a mad woman, and what else?
And then I kept going.
Okay.
In total Scorpio fashion. I mean, Scorpio loves to go deep.
Yes.
And like once it obsesses about something, anything, it just like goes. I went in and I started watching even more videos about myself. And then I started to like just really begin learning about my chart and dissecting chart and learning astrology. And I think that I drove till 4 or 5 in the morning that day. Like I just kept going. I was high on learning. I would always beat myself. I still do have these moments where I beat myself up because I'm not living up to my own potential. And I always had the self-limiting belief that in order for me to know something, I have to be taught it. So like I have to go to school, I have to go to college and be like taught how to do something.
Right.
And I discovered, from that moment, I mean, I didn't stop watching videos. Like every day I would read articles, like just consume as much astrology information as I could. I realized that I have the power to educate myself on something that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
If the passion is there, so is the knowledge and so is the desire to uncover. Like I don't need anyone telling me how to do or what to do. The information is out there and I do have the discipline because the passion was there. So it was a really beautiful moment in the car of just like feeling and experiencing spirit coursing through my body. And rather than doubting what was happening, like I knew that that's what it was. Like I knew that I knew that I knew. And like once I knew that, there was no going back. There was no turning back.
And so would you say in this case, it was really like finding the objectivity and the validation of what you have been experiencing your whole life in your inner self, and then being validated by this astrological map that says you do have this gift and this gift and this gift, or these senses and psychic abilities and things like that. So finding that truth that really was resonant, and then going through this, how would you say it and relate it, like this experience of rationalization, to be able to really like just take it in and let it land on the inside. And then like in such a way that it was like this fulfilling way that now there's really like, now we're kind of burgeoning on something we call like self-trust and like gaining self-trust and really looking to the inner experience as this navigator of this truth space.
100%. Another thing that opened up for me in that moment was also, so there's like this gift of clear cognizance. Well, now I know that when I know something, I know it. And then I also have to practice like not letting ego get in the way.
Sure.
That's a whole other story. And also this clear sentience, where, you know, I also learned about like the depth of emotion of Scorpio. And my whole life, I've been peppered with these deep emotional responses to events, falling deep into depression, into darkness, having really, really, really dark thoughts. And before this moment, I would tell myself, like, why are you even crying, Vanessa? You don't have it that bad. You know, like, you don't have these traumas. Like, other people, you know, I'd always be comparing myself to other people's traumatic experiences. And one thing that I learned about was, you know, Scorpios are highly empathic and highly sensitive beings who feel people, they feel things. And sometimes they're feeling the collective, and it's hard to figure out like where that's even coming from.
Right.
But it's this deep, deep, deep emotional response. And Scorpios have a way to feel that a lot of people like are too afraid to tap into. Scorpio is not afraid. Scorpio goes in. So having this permission to see myself as a psychic opened up being a psychic for me, like opened up those possibilities of, okay, well, this is a gift that I have. Now what? My intention for that road trip to find my purpose, find my path, evolved into me discovering astrology, me then realizing that I can be a teacher of this spiritual stuff, the spiritual awareness, these gifts.
Right, and even like traversing the own territory of feeling lost or unheard or unfound even in the self, and being able to share that journey with other people or using it as a reference for other people is oftentimes very helpful as well. Because I always say this, like, it takes one to know one.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does that really mean? Yeah. And it's like, it takes one to know one because you've been there, you've done it, you've seen it. And because of those things, you can see those elements and qualities in other people because it's so familiar. You've already been there.
Soon thereafter, at the end of the year, so this was about end of September 2017. And towards the end of the year, I grounded the vision of my business, Mystic Monarch. And with that comes its own challenges, right? Of like, okay, like I'm stepping into this now. This is who I am. This is what I want. I see the vision so clearly.
Yes.
And I'm still human, right? We all are.
Yes.
And my ego is a real thing. My doubt is a real thing. So there's these moments of like, am I really cut out for this? You know, should I really be doing this? Should I really be going after this business? And like that, there's that voice of like, you can't, what else are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna go back to?
I see that one's got attitude too. Like, what else? Where are you at?
Exactly. So
right.
this is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. And this is you stepping into that, even not knowing. So I think as we progress on these paths of what we don't yet know or what we have yet to discover, there's an angle that we could say is, I don't know why I'm doing this. That's disempowering in a way. And yet you still continue to walk that path. But I don't know why I'm doing this, walking that path. You know, it's a little backwards walking the path, kind of. When you could say, I am not sure why I'm doing this, and yet I'm doing it and discovering why I'm doing it. Or you could just say, I'm walking this path that's unknown to me in discovery of what's to be known. And so just using the languaging, they have vibrations, frequencies, thinking of words as vibrational keys that really unlock where you're heading, self-talk, inner self-talk, and also communication with other people. And I know communication is a strong suit for you, that it really matters how we navigate that communication with ourselves, even on these journeys that we don't know the next step, but we are brave and we are courageous and we are taking that step.
So fast forward to the end of 2017, I realized that this is what I want to be doing. I want to be a spiritual teacher. And I came back to Miami, began grounding the business. And in that, I began to work here and there in lawyer stuff. And through that, I landed an opportunity to work at a record label as an entertainment lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I couldn't pass that up, right?
Yeah.
Because
dreams are knocking.
Exactly. My dreams are coming to me and manifesting.
Yes.
So I'm currently still working as an entertainment lawyer, and I've been learning so much about the music industry from the legal perspective. So I'm still getting my nerd on.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful to see how all of the paths are intersecting. And it's teaching me to trust and to surrender. And the lesson that when I surrender into the unknown, magic unfolds. It wasn't that there was like this specific moment of me like unlocking these gifts. Like these gifts had always been there. But society, my experience, my environment, the conditioned learning told me, like I learned that, oh no, like this intuitive thing is not a thing. That doesn't really exist.
Right.
Then it becomes a process. Like once I became aware, then it has been a process of deprogramming.
Indeed.
All of the belief systems. And that's ultimately what we as humans are here to do, to deprogram all the learning so that we can unveil the divinity within us, our gifts, our authenticity, our light, our brilliance.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what we're here to do, it has been a process of now figuring out, how to be in the gift, right? Should I be being spiritual the way that this group is being spiritual? Or should I be being spiritual the way that this group is being spiritual? Like that presented its own issues, challenges along the way, and still like fine-tuning that authentic voice.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your knowing sense and like the knowing, but also the hits that you talk about that you get from people. And how do those hits occur? Is it a mental thing? Do you feel it? Do you hear it? What is the inner sense of that specifically?
The inner sense of that it's kind of hard to describe because it's a knowingness.
Does it feel like your brain is working in the knowingness?
It feels like it's coming from here, like the back, rather than from here, the top. Okay. It's like this voice that emanates from the back forward, and that's driving the information. And then I also get to check in with like my center. Sometimes if I'm about to deliver something, it's like, okay, let me take a moment. Is it coming from here? There are moments though when I get full body chills, right? And that's when I know that this is message. Like it's not even coming from me. It's coming from a higher place. And that's when I know like I'm on the money. Or I'm having a thought come through and I have the chills. It's like, oh, this is something to really pay attention to. Or I'm thinking about something and then like the same word comes on the radio, or like a song with like the thought that I was having comes on the radio, or I'm talking about something with a friend and there's like I see that word in a billboard when I'm driving, right? Like those synchronicities. That's when I know it's like, okay, there's something in what I was saying to pay attention to.
And would you say that the whole body chills, because that happened a few times in that explanation, would you say that they're like this intuitive alarm system?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely an intuitive alarm system. There's also something that happens the more seated in my gift and intuition I am, and the more aligned I am to that, the less that these psychic experiences happen, because they're so integrated into my body, into my existence, that it's who I am.
How would you explain the seatedness or the alignment in that case? Like, how are you not seated, or how are you not aligned?
That's a good question. I think that it comes down to feedback, right? If I'm delivering a reading or I'm sitting with someone in a session, like I'm not sometimes I'm doubting, like, wow, am I even, like, is what I'm saying landing? Is it even really resonating? There's like that thought, and I keep going. And then afterwards, the person's like, oh my God, that, that resonated because this XYZ happened to me when I was a kid. And it's like, oh, I know that I'm aligned. And prior to that, I didn't have these body chills or body intuitions. There's also a sense of centeredness and peace that happens within me, right? If I feel still, then I know that it's integrated, the knowledge is integrated. And then there's also something that happens to me when I know that I'm not in it, and that's the loss of my train of thought.
Okay.
I'm talking, and then I lose the train of thought, and then I know, like, oh, I went in a different direction. And then when I'm in that space and I see, like, my mind going with it or my ego going with it, I do sometimes take a moment, I pause, I take a breath, and the breath is really a breath of trust and surrender. Because a lot of what I see, sometimes I don't even know what I'm about to say, because the information isn't always coming from me. And so it's that moment of taking a pause, breathing in, and trusting that whatever's going to come out next is going to be perfect.
Yes.
And in that moment, that's when another channel opens up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really is that centering, because the moment I try to explain what I'm seeing or what's happening or what to say next,
sure,
out of that centered moment, that peaceful moment, and I'm in my mind. Choice is everything. It's what grounds spirit into this body. That illustrates really perfectly what happens in these moments for me. It's like, if I make the choice to come from my center
mm-hmm.
and deliver a message from that space,
yes,
then so it shall be.
Yes.
That's it.
That message becomes service. Like, it's in service. It's not in boast. It's not in pride. It's not in meanness. It's in usness, we-ness, you-ness, everything not me-ness. Mm-hmm.
It has been a process of now figuring out, how to be in the gift, right? Should I be being spiritual the way that this group is being spiritual? Or should I be being spiritual the way that this group is being spiritual? Like, that presented its own issues, challenges along the way, and still, like, fine-tuning that authentic voice.
Well, let me ask you our final question, which is, do you feel like anybody can have these intuitive experiences, or is it only reserved for special magical people?
Both. Everybody is a magical person.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes. So everybody has it.
Everybody has it. Mm-hmm. And it is my mission to serve people in that way, to support them in figuring out what their magic is.
Nice. Cool. Anything else you want to say for the cameras?
No.
That's it?
I'm complete.
Okay, cool. Then that's a wrap, fellers.